So what we're going to look at in this video is how to take something like the gradient inside of Illustrator and use some sort of effects and stuff like that to turn it into something interesting with texture, and then turn that into, so then you can use that as texture and then maybe turn it into a graphic style. So the first thing is I have my gradient here, right? And I'm now going to go up to Effect, and what do I want? I want Texture Grain. Right? So I'm going to zoom out here just so I can see it. And I like that grain, and I like that stippling actually. It's pretty good. We can up the contrast if we wanted to, or lower the contrast, and we'll do OK. So you can see that's turned it into, it's turned it into this effect. And you can see down here the effect, it says grain. Now this is set to multiply. Great. Let's take this and turn this into a graphic style. Right. Let me just go over here, and let me just kind of show you it in action. So now it's here, right? So now I have that. It's on that. So let's switch it, right? So there's that graphic style, switch it, and there it is. Now what's interesting about that is, let's put, you can see now if I put a regular effect on this, let's just go to red. Nope, let's clear this. Let's now do red, right, and send it to the back. You can see that it becomes transparent, right? So I'm starting to see through that background, which is really interesting. Okay, so that's an effect that you can kind of carry through. It is set to multiply. That's the reason it's kind of, we're seeing it, right? So just some interesting things that you can start to add to this. Now let's say you wanted, let's go one step further. Let's say you wanted to take that and make this now an Illustrator file to work on. Let's say you wanted them to be vectors and you wanted to be able to use it. Okay, so you could then go to, you know what, let's cover that in the next video. So this was the idea of creating some of these textures that could then be used. So let's just kind of delete this. And let's say I have this thing here. And you can see it applied that texture, right, just because I have that graphic style active, it applied that texture. So it's just a really interesting way that you could add tone and texture to your piece. If you decide, for example, let's go back to my original document here. Let's say you're looking at that and you said, you know what, I really want to change that. Well, I can just click on the grain and let's bring the intensity here. Let's make it lower. Let's bring the contrast up or down, right? Just depending on how you want it. Let's do vertical. Let's lower the intensity, right? So there's all these options that you can really start to go with. Let's do this and let's do OK. Now we can turn that into a graphic style, right? You could also take just a regular gradient. Let's do this. Let's go to the gradient. Gradient. Oh, because let's clear this. Let's go to the gradient. And in this case, I don't want it to go to 0 as opacity. I want it to go all the way to white. And let's change the location to be 90, right? Working from something like that maybe. Okay, and let's go to Effects. Let's apply that grain that we just did. Let's see if we like it. Yeah, I like where that's going. So now take that and make that a graphic style. So you just have different options. So instead of it being this here, right, I can change it to this, and you can see it's fully white. Well, let's go back, right? So I'm just showing you that these things are fully kind of changeable. Let's change the opacity, or let's change this to do multiply, right? So it'll kind of blend with that, and let's save that one as well. So let's go back to this one and apply this. And you can see the white. Oh, it should have gone through. Let's see why it didn't. There it goes. So now we're going to take, right, so that's pretty cool. So now I'm going to take this one and actually add this one to it. I had the opacity of the grain, not of the overall, so we're just going to change that to this. So now you can see there's a whole bunch of texture and things you could add to your piece. So for example, let's go back and do 50% on this one. Right, so it's a little bit more opaque. Let's add that. Just showing the full flexibility of what I can add to this. Now, I don't particularly like that, but that's okay. But just showing you what you can add to this, right? So that's using not only the appearance panel to create texture, but to do more than just a gradient. You can do all sorts of things with it.